Hello YouTube, it is Saturday the somethingth and it is 10:18 p.m. and this is a Yugioh up here. And today we have the Empty Jar deck profile for the the January 2014 format. So Empty Jar is a deck out deck. There are only a couple of win conditions. I'm going to go ahead and briefly show you the deck list. If anybody wants this, you can download the .ydk in the description, and you can also get a deck list in the form of text in the description. The extra deck doesn't matter, and the side deck is the only main things you would want are the Space Typhoons and the Iron Walls. Alright, so as I said, Empty Jar is a deck out deck, so the main win conditions are going to be the main win condition is Morphing Jar, but you can use a couple other things. So we're trying to reuse Morphing Jar as much as we can, and the only way to do that is through Book of Taiyou, Eclipse, and Book of Moon. And we're going to reset Morphing Jar and flip him back up as many times as possible. So Book of Eclipse and Moon will set him back down, and Book of Taiyou will flip him back up, letting you get the effect off again. When you're out of Books of Taiyou, you can either recycle them with the Feather of a Phoenix, or with Magical Stone Excavation, or you can use the effect of AD Changer instead. So yeah, that's the first win condition. You're almost always going to win with that, but there are a couple of instances where you don't actually win off of that. The second win condition is a little bit far-fetched, but I've used it before and it has worked a couple times. With Magician of Faith at 1, there's actually a loop with Book of Eclipse. Now, you can't just spam the loop a bunch of times in one turn, but what you can do is you can stall out and make them draw a lot with this. So the general idea is you set Magician of Faith and you set Book of Eclipse and you end your turn. And when they go to attack, you can end the battle phase by activating Book of Eclipse, and then all of their monsters get set. So they can't attack Magician of Faith anymore. So when it's your turn, you flip up Magician of Faith, set Book of Eclipse again, and then when they go to attack, you activate it again. And you just keep stalling over and over with that. And that's one way you can win with Empty Jar, is actually just off those two key pieces right there. But I wouldn't rely on that. Another one is bringing back Needleworms with the Shallow Grave. Most of the time, your opponent's gonna have a couple more cards than you in a lot of instances, so Needleworm is gonna be something you need to get off in order to win against whatever it is you're playing, because you'll end up killing yourself, or you'll end up having the match become a draw just because you both couldn't draw and you both decked out, or you couldn't draw but they could. So Needleworms always want to get one or two of those off in a game. The next win condition is just plain stalling. 1 Day of Peace, you can use that 6 times in a game, although the likelihood of that is pretty slim. But point is, you can use that up to 6 times a game, and you can stall and deck them out. So it's just really good to use that. I recycle it like crazy when I'm on the deck. It's just really helpful because you can stall out. And then of course we have Book of Eclipse, which will set all of their monsters when they go to attack, which means the battle phase is basically ended, and then they draw a card at the end phase. So it's decking them out and it's stalling. It's really good. Right, so that's the 4 win conditions. We have Morphing Jar, Magician of Faith, Needleworm, and stalling. Then we can go on to the key combos, which there's only 2 of them, but we've got a Feather of the Phoenix and Upstart Goblin. If you need to get a card back to your hand right away, Feather of the Phoenix is great, but it won't get it to your hand immediately. So Feather of the Phoenix, you can discard something like AD Changer that needs to be in the graveyard, and then use Upstart Goblin to draw back whatever it was that you just discarded. You can do that with 1 Day of Peace as well. Anything that lets you draw, you can do that with. And then another key combo is if you have activated Book of Eclipse at any time during your turn, and you draw the Shallow Grave, if you're going to discard it from Morphing Jar's effect and you weren't going to do anything with it, you always want to play it because in the end phase, they're going to draw one more card and it's going to help deck them out. So even if you've got nothing but like deep divers and battle faders in the graveyard, you want to use it anyway just because it's going to help deck them out a little bit. Because Eclipse will flip all of their face down monsters up, not just the ones affected by it. Anyway, on the final section, cards to consider, we have Morphing Jar number 2. This is really interesting. There's a Morphing Jar number 2 deck. It's basically just empty jar that focuses a little bit more on Morphing Jar number 2. But he will, for every monster they have, okay, when he gets flipped up, they put all their monsters back into the deck, and then they reveal the same number that they returned. They special all monsters from that they're allowed to special, and then any other card goes to the grave. So no matter what, they're going to lose a lot of cards out of the deck. So it's not quite as abusable because eventually they're going to have 0 monsters in the field if you keep going with that, but you can still get a lot of use out of it. Then we've got Burst Rebirth. Now this is a very interesting card. Came out in Shadow Specters. You can pay 2,000 life points, which is a pretty hefty cost for this, and you can get a monster from your graveyard and special it face down. So one thing you can do with this is you can use something like Foolish Burial. I forgot to mention that. You could use Foolish Burial and then bring it right back with that. If you don't happen to have a Shallow Grave, you could use Burst Rebirth. But Burst Rebirth is good because you can activate on the end phase. So if I've got Morphing Jar in the graveyard, during their end phase I can activate it. And when it's my turn, I have the ability to flip it back up because it was summoned last turn. So Burst Rebirth is worth considering. And then along with Burst Rebirth, we've got either Giant Rat or Mother Grizzly. So Giant Rat, the entire point of him is to get Morphing Jar into the graveyard for either Burst Rebirth or for the Shallow Grave, which, yeah, either one of those two. And then Mother Grizzly, the sole purpose behind that is to search out Deep Diver, which when he's destroyed in battle, he will put any monster from your deck to the top of your deck. Now that effect is mandatory, so if he's destroyed in battle, then you're going to have to pick something. And then one final card that I figured was worth mentioning is Tsukiyomi. Tsukiyomi can get your flip effects to go off several times, but it's a little bit slow, so personally I don't run this in here just because I think it's way too slow to run. The deck is already kind of slow enough, and this just makes it even worse. So if you want to, you can. I would side deck it if you use it at all, just because some decks it might be useful to run over their monsters with this. But anyway, that is the Empty Jar deck profile. Again, a download link in the description along with the full deck list. And that is the Empty Jar January 2014 deck profile. AYGO Nub, signing out.